City of Monona City Council. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Alder Holmquist.
Here.
Alder Moore.
Here.
Alder Wood.
Here.
Alder Rademacher.
Here.
I don't see Alder Bernstein. Alder DePula.
Here.
Mayor O'Connor.
Here. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
There he is.
All right. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the July 17th meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Any corrections or additions? Okay, hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. We have one appearance, Ryan Lee, who would like to speak in favor of the amplified device ordinance change.
I think most of you were here last time, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so, really just came.
If you want to just move the mic over to you, great. Thank you.
Yeah, so I don't really have anything new to say in favor of it. We talked about the business revenue and the musicians' revenue. I did have a few musicians that sent me emails. I didn't get a chance to type them or print them up and bring them, but also it's speaking in favor for their well-being and economy.
And you're from Breakwater.
From Breakwater, yes, I'm sorry.
Sorry, could you give us your name too?
Ryan Lee, representing Breakwater.
Thank you.
Was really just coming up to see if anybody had any questions regarding that or how things went after I left last time.
I don't think there was any that I know of, so appreciate you coming back, and if we do have something during the, when we're considering it, we can ask you then.
Is that going to be?
That'll be quickly. Yeah, it's one of the first things on the agenda, so. Don't give it to me. There is no public hearing, there is no consent agenda. Moving on to council action items. Number 1, under unfinished business, consideration of resolution 23-7-2632, award of contract for 2023 Public Works Garage HVAC improvements put forth by the Facilities Committee. My understanding is that Public Works did not have a quorum last week, so they were not able to meet about this, but they are meeting on Wednesday. Is that correct, Brad?
That is correct.
So we could always approve this in the context of, based on the approval of Public Works on Wednesday. So is there a motion to approve this?
Motion to approve.
Second. Brad?
All right, so nothing's changed since July, it was a while ago, but the bids came in under our current budget with the caveat that part of the scope was removed from this project due to the fact that it affects the exterior of the building envelope, which the building envelope improvements are slated for 2 years from now for construction, so it makes more sense to do that at that point in time than to patch something in, rip it all out, and do it again. And it was a fairly significant portion of the project. It's over half the cost. So, with that being said, anything left over from this budget will just get recirculated back in, and we'll go from there. There's engineering and the capital budget requests for the building envelope and roof replacement or improvements for the Public Works Garage for 2024.
And this particular item had been approved in the 2023 capital budget.
Right.
So,
Yep. Thank you.
any questions?
You want the approval if it votes conditioned upon the public.
If anyone would like to make a contingent on Public Works approval, is there a motion to amend?
I'll move to, or I'll second.
Okay, so Alder Moore's motion to make it contingent upon approval by the Public Works Committee on Wednesday, and seconded by Alder Wood. Is there any further discussion about that? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Now we are back to the original motion. Any further? We do not have an original motion, is that correct?
Yeah, we do.
We do have one.
Yeah.
I'm getting confused here.
Holmquist and
Oh, okay. Any further discussion on the original motion as amended? If none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Alder Moore.
Aye.
Alder Wood,
Aye.
Alder Rademacher,
Aye.
Alder Bernstein,
Aye.
Alder DePula,
Aye.
Alder Holmquist.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Brad.
Thank you.
Next, item B, consideration of Resolution 23-7-2633, expressing a commitment to protect transgender and non-binary individuals, put forth by Alders Wood, Rademacher, Bernstein, Moore, DePula, and Mayor O'Connor. Is there a motion to approve this?
Move to approve.
Second.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Doug?
I would just note, since I think it was the day after we met last time, there was a story in the State Journal about SSM Health changing their policy to not provide services for gender transition. So, if there's any doubt about, even in Dane County, the need to say something.
I would only comment that I think Alder Moore herself said that she would have gladly put her name behind this, and there should be,
Oh, and it has been added.
and it
It
has been
has.
added, fantastic. I just know every citizen in Monona should know that the entire council is behind this.
Anyone else? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, item 1C, consideration of ordinance 7-23-768, amending section 335-8D, paren 3, of the Code of Ordinances to increase the number of amplification permits allowed in a calendar year. This is put forth by the License Review Committee. Is there a motion to approve this?
Motion to approve. Second.
Alder Wood, do you want to address this?
Sure. Nothing's changed since the last time. Basically, in the originally there had been no limitation on the number of permits, and it really wasn't a big deal because there weren't venues in town for the most part providing live music. And then we did set the limit at 45 2 years ago, I believe it was. And I sort of at License Review Committee, we talked about it and felt that maybe we had overshot what we were looking for, and that 60 would be a more appropriate number. And I guess if we pass it, we'll find out if 60 is acceptable to the neighbors as well. So.
Any questions or comments? Alder Moore?
Or a comment, I guess, which is to say that certainly upping it to 60 doesn't preclude anyone from losing their license or otherwise being fined or cautioned if their music does get out of line with, in other words, if we start to get complaints, if it starts to be a problem in any of the neighborhoods, we, regardless of whether it says 45 days or 60, we have the authority to go ahead and act on that, correct?
That is true.
Yeah, the police chief actually has the authority to revoke permits. So.
Correct. So that's what I'm just saying. It's not like we're opening a barn door and not paying any attention.
Right.
It's just that we're being more flexible and supportive of our businesses.
Anyone else? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Bye now. Next item, 1D, consideration of Resolution 23-7-2635, declaring intent to hold a referendum to exceed the state property tax levy limit put forth by Mayor O'Connor. Is there a motion to approve this?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
I will just say, basically, this is just putting us on record as saying we're going to hold that referendum, the levy limit referendum next year, and it instructs staff to start preparing the numbers and information we need to determine what the question will be, and that will happen sometime depending on when we end up having the referendum. I think it has to be, the question has to be set on 90 or 100 days or something before the election, as I recall. So, any questions about this?
I have one.
Rick?
Do you know yet when in 2024?
We're not sure because it's dependent on when we have the information we need for the public safety building referendum.
So you want to put both of them on the
Yes, we're
same
doing them at
ballot?
the same time. Yep.
Okay. Are there Is there a likelihood of one over the other?
What do you mean of one
The two
being
dates
approved
is-
over the other? Or-
Of the 2 dates in 2024?
It's totally dependent on when we get that information, and that just depends on when we actually approve. We're in the process of hiring a firm to do that design. They need to be able to, we need to have something to show people, so we need to have the design finished to some extent so that we can show people. So it all depends on when a firm is approved, when they, if it's someone new who hasn't been involved before, they're going to have to go back and do some information gathering, I'm sure, about space and that type of thing. So I really have no idea at this point. I would probably say it might be getting to be more likely that it's November than April.
It's
So
just that election will be
it's going to be crazy.
crowding out any opportunity we have to really cut through all the noise.
Well, we'll be doing a lot of public, information about it and everything, so. There's
Yeah, I
also
know.
going to be there'll be a primary in April that's going to be making a lot of noise too, so. The Republican presidential primary will be in April, so
That's-
either way, I think there's going to be
Okay.
a lot going on out there, so.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Moving on to new business. First item is closed session. Convening closed session under Wisconsin Statute Section 19.85, Paren 1, Paren E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require closed session. This is related to 1208 East Broadway, the Whitehorse and North Point development agreements. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Second.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Alder Wood.
Aye.
Alder Rademacher.
Aye.
Alder Bernstein.
Aye.
Alder DePula.
Aye.
Alder Holmquist.
Aye.
Alder Moore.
Aye.
We are in closed session. Sorry, Brad. Just give them a minute to get the. Neil, I don't know if you have to do something.
Nope, I just let the Chiefs back in.
Okay, all right. Moving on, item C, consideration of resolution 23-7. Alders, are you ready to continue?
Yes, sorry.
Consideration of resolution 23-7-2637, approving a facility use agreement with Monona Grove Youth Football, put forth by the Park and Recreation Board. Jake.
Good evening, Mayor and Alders. In your packet is a copy of the facility use agreement that has been drafted with Monona Grove Youth Football. We had a similar agreement drafted in 2017 that was never formally approved by this body, but we've been operating under those conditions for quite a fair amount of years. Monona Grove Youth Football has been a great partner to have to activate Huska Park. Actually, we had our first night of practice out there, about 140 kids, grades 5th through 8th, both Monona and Cottage Grove. We'll put approximately 30 games on the field this year, with teams coming from all over the area. And so what this agreement does is just lay out the terms of responsibilities between the city and Monona Grove Youth
Could you hang on
Football.
just a minute?
Did you use the other one?
Yep.
That one was like dying.
This one's looking blinking too. Batteries. Always need batteries.
Thank you.
And so this agreement spells out basically the terms that have been agreed upon between staff and organizers of the youth football and for a period of 15 years. And within the facility use agreement, Attorney Cole's drafted provision that at any time the city wants to revisit that agreement has the right to do so. But of course, the football organization, similar to the Christmas tree sales that are at Huska Park, we will get for some long-term security. And it is a great asset, in my opinion, that we have this organization housed in Monona, given that it's a both Monona and Cottage Grove program.
Questions, anybody?
I just want to point out that I think the numbering on the resolution says 23.8.
At the top.
But on
Top
the
of the
agenda it
page.
says 23.7. Does that matter?
No.
Yeah.
No?
So the bookmark is this number. That's okay. Yeah.
Anyone else? Nancy?
Yeah, I just have a question. Do we have any other agreement that's as long as this with any other entity, or is this a singular?
Our Christmas tree sale use agreement is 15 years.
Okay.
And then our farmers market agreement is 5 years.
Okay.
About the sailing club, how long is it?
Sailing club is 5 years. So most are running on. This one, given just the nature of proposed improvements at the facility, including fundraising for the goal of the football organization is included in our master plan, is to put in stadium bleachers at the field, and that necessitates the need to have a home for a longer period in order to be able to meet those fundraising goals.
Yeah. Anyone else? I just had two questions. The insurance agreement that was included, that's through 2014?
That's just a.
Is there a?
There is an
updated
update. Yep,
every
there
year?
is an updated one that will be provided for the second reading.
Okay. And then I was just curious, on page 8, it mentioned they can use storage at the cell tower storage unit. Is that at a Huska, or is that over here? I didn't know there was
Yeah,
one
so
at
at
a
Huska, there's a building on the football field, and half of it is for the U.S. Cellular
Oh,
equipment,
okay.
and then the other half, which is very small, it's probably a 8 by 12 unit. That's where they keep some of their equipment.
Okay, I didn't realize there was one there. Anyone else have any questions for Jake? This will come back on the 21st then.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Next couple items are started for immediate approval. I think it makes more sense to me to do item E first. Consideration of Resolution 23-8-2639, award of contract for 2023 Fire Department bathroom repairs put forth by the Fire Chief. Is there a motion to take this out of order?
I move to take this out of order.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Is there a motion to approve this?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We're going to talk about the project first, and then we'll move the money.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so the general scope of the issue here is that we've been having plumbing issues in the lower level bathroom in the fire department for quite some time now, and we weren't really sure what it was. We assumed it was toilets. At one point, Chief Scott had decided to renovate and put in new toilets, and maybe that would fix the problem. Try and just bring it up to date a little bit instead of, we didn't investigate deeper, and that wasn't the issue. And the brand new toilet, not new now, but new-ish toilets still don't flush. And we've investigated, we TV'd the pipes from both directions, both from the bathroom out and from out to in, and found that in this 20-ish foot section of the restroom is a sanitary line that has completely collapsed. We're fairly confident all the lines are cast iron, which would make sense for the time when they were installed back in the 60s. Found out historically, just speaking so everybody knows, which was a practice, I guess, back in the day, but maybe not necessarily the smartest practice. They poured muriatic acid down the lines to clear them, which is extremely... it's just not conducive with cast iron. It basically melts it from the inside out. It got to the point where the lines have now not only calcited, but they've collapsed upon themselves. There's a double fold issue to the point where there's about like that much room to get through the sanitary pipe, which is a 4-inch pipe. It doesn't pass much at all. And so we've been snaking it, using liquid plumber, what have you, anything we can do to make sure that the pipes, at least every once in a while, fully flush themselves out. We have standing nastiness in the toilets, in the urinal, and in the shower, which there's only one true shower for the full-time staff downstairs. The males and females all share the same one stall shower off of the men's bathroom, where they have to do the straight bolt, lock it up for when staff are in there. Water's pooling up in the bottom of the shower. They're standing in there in the filth and nastiness. So it came to the point where Chief and I both were like, this is ridiculous. We can't keep doing this. Yeah, I understand that there is a possibility that there will be a new building built or renovations to the existing facilities that are downstairs right now. It's still only a possibility, so it's not written in stone. So it's one of those things that it needs to get done. You can't have staff in those situations, especially when they're living there. It's not like admin staff. We don't live in the facility. They do. So that's where we're at. Given the situation, the price point, you might look at it and say, this is just a bathroom renovation. All they have to do is fix a pipe. The pipe is in a slab, concrete slab, behind a concrete block wall. And as soon as we touch anything in the restroom downstairs, anything that goes back in has to be ADA compliant. It's just the way it is. So instead of a 2-stall bathroom, which is in there now, there will be one ADA compliant stall. There will be an ADA compliant doorway opening, which also happens to be a steel metal frame on a concrete block wall, which has to be cut out, opened up wider, and then reframed back in with a new door. This is starred for one read because of the fact that we were informed by KSW that the door itself with the frame is looking 14 weeks to 16 weeks in lead for it. So even if they can finish everything inside the bathroom, the door which provides the bathroom its privacy will not be in for at least 3 months after this month, which puts us out to the end of November-ish. So the hope here is that if approved, the fire department will have a fully functional bathroom before Christmas.
And we did have, Leah sent out on a separate email the bid sheet
Yep.
comparing the two bids we received. One was quite a bit lower than the other.
Yeah, the second bid was kind of a shot in the dark. They weren't at the walkthrough for the facility. KSW had, I'm confident in the bid, let's just say that. They've had I've met with every single one of their subcontractors at least more than once, and their lead on this project at least like 5 or 6 times. So they've been in and out and measured twice, and so hopefully we only have to cut once, and it'll be a smooth-ish project for us.
Any questions, anyone?
So I was just going to ask about your confidence. Have we used them before? I know that you have confidence of your walkthroughs, but have they done any work with the municipality?
They have. They're the lead provider on the senior center bathroom that has gone through tonight. They've done the office renovations up in admin when we moved offices around, and Leah and I got permanent offices. And they've been in the area and been doing large projects and repairs and renovation projects for a long time. They're one of the few general contractors, I call them general prime contractors, the fairly big firms in the area that'll do bonding for municipal projects, which is, it scares some contractors off that would otherwise be very, very responsible and good, candidates for a project like this. But when you have to do bonding, it takes on extra risk. Only the big project prime contractors will take that on.
So we can't snag them in to do the senior center work and the staircase that we want desperately to do that we can't find anybody for at the same time? Just saying, I know the senior center's been beating their head against the wall for all year.
The thing about that project, and I think that, if you wanted to just throw that bid out there and cut it down to just what is absolutely necessary.
Just the staircase, you mean, or?
We could engage them. I bet they would put in a bid for it. It's the end of the year. Maybe they can kind of pump some of it out at the same time they're doing some of this work. And at the same time they're doing the bathroom downstairs in the senior center. And then they're here, minimizes their overhead. They already have staff on site.
Right. Well, I'll let that be a discussion among staff. I just know that Diane's been beating her head against the wall.
It'd be a good thing for the facilities committee to review in August. We have our meeting coming up.
Kind of depends on how much money is left in that project, since we're taking a chunk of it to spend on this.
Absolutely.
So I'm not sure what the staircase alone is.
Although I bet if they knew how much was left in the budget, they would
They'd
figure out
budget
exactly
that
how
for
much.
it, yeah. Probably a good point. Anybody else have any questions? Okay, if none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Alder Rademacher,
Aye.
Alder Bernstein,
Aye.
Alder DePula,
Aye.
Alder Holmquist.
Aye.
Alder Moore,
Aye.
Alder Wood,
Motion passes. Then I'm going to move back up to item D, which is consideration of resolution 23-8-2638, amending the 2023 capital budget for emergency repairs in the fire department, put forth by the fire chief. This is also started for immediate approval. Is there a motion to take this out of order?
Motion to take it out of order.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve?
Second.
And this basically amends the capital budget and takes some of the money allocated for the community center project and puts it in to cover this project, because we haven't received any bids at all for that project. So any discussion about this?
I just had a reminder, this technically, because it's a maintenance project, is also in the Public Works Committee packet.
Oh, for tomorrow. Yeah, we did, similar to the first item under unfinished business, there was not a quorum last minute at Public Works the other night, so this was on their agenda then.
Yep.
So if somebody wants to make this contingent on approval at Public Works, Well, we've already, I guess, the money, well, they don't approve the money, though, moving the money, though, we already approved the project, so,
Just know that they'll see it. They'll
yeah,
be aware.
okay. But, so is there any further questions about amending the capital budget? Hearing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Alder Bernstein.
Aye.
Alder DePula.
Aye.
Alder Holmquist.
Aye.
Alder Moore.
Aye.
Alder Wood.
Aye.
Alder Rademacher.
Aye.
Motion passes, thank you.
Great. Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. Final item F, consideration of ordinance 8-23-769, creating section 335-20 of the Code of Ordinances restricting pedestrian activity and street right-of-ways put forth by the Public Safety Committee. And Chief, are you here?
He is.
I am.
Oh, there you are, okay. And this is just on for first read tonight, so Chief, if you would like to introduce this item.
If you allow me, Mayor, I'll defer to our Public Safety Chair.
Alderman Holmquist.
Sure. So this item was brought back to the Public Safety Committee on the basis of a variety of requests from committee members as well as others. We brought it back to the committee for some further discussion. This is the same proposal that was brought forward about a year ago to this body. That was passed at Public Safety, brought to this body that it did not pass at this body, and due to some kind of ongoing concerns that were arising, it was brought back to Public Safety, passed at Public Safety for another consideration at Council. One of the key items that I think has continued to come up was regarding, I think some people have pointed out the difference between a restriction on what is happening versus what the safety concern is. And I think there was a little bit discussion, we had some discussion at the Public Safety Committee of this ordinance is really looking at the safety concern regarding pedestrian positioning and where they are positioned, not what they are doing when they're positioned there. And I think that is one of the key distinctions on some of the, I think, criticisms that have come forward that have urged us to not move forward with this ordinance has been focused on what people are doing rather than the safety concern. And so at the Public Safety Committee, and why we're bringing it forward again, is to look at actually the location and the safety concerns about location, not the conduct that's happening during or at that location. I'll leave it there. Alder Bernstein, I'm not sure if there's some additional information that I may have forgot that you might remember from the meeting that you think would be helpful.
No, I think your summary covers it pretty well. I guess there have been a lot of correspondence from unsolicited members of the community that I think they were offended and sometimes worried about businesses, or whether or not the people are honestly looking for money for their own use. But, you know, I think the police chief's hands are tied when people are laying prone on the ground on the median in Stoughton. That's just the situation that is not acceptable, and there are no tools to deal with that. I don't know if this tool is the right one, but it seems to be the one that's most available. But there are certain issues that need to be addressed. I just think, personally, a more comprehensive approach might be more effective. My 2 cents.
Chief, did you have anything else to add?
Only that, well, thank you both, alders. I think that was a good summary. Only to add that as it relates to my job in the police department with respect to public safety and the impact of not only calls to both the downtown 911 center that obviously get transferred to us during peak hours, but also our obligation and duty to respond to each of those calls in which there's a concern for somebody's welfare, be it I think they're passed out, for example. I'm not sure if they're breathing. I think that they're overheating. I don't know if the children are safe. All of those things, even though we might have an inkling based on our experience and numerous contacts with, often the case is likely the same group of individuals or individuals, we still have a duty to respond because you never know what's going to change from minute to minute. Heaven forbid, there is an incident in which somebody hops a curb and strikes one of the individuals that's lying down in the median. We may have just been there 30 seconds prior, checked and left, but if another call comes in, we can't just assume that everything's fine. And so your police department as well as fire, I've checked with Chief McMullen, we're both spending a lot of time sort of checking welfare and responding out to folks based on complaints. And as I mentioned before, I've had some communication with the 911 center, Dane County Communication Center downtown, and many of these calls are 911 calls that are happening during peak hours, which is an impact to emergency services for the county as well. So that's all I'll just mention. These are facts, and I'll let you all figure out what's best for the city.
Okay. And just to confirm, panhandling is legal, correct?
It is, it's even more, it's a constitutionally protected activity.
Yeah, okay. And can you just tell me, is this in any way different than what we saw several months ago? Is this attachment 2? Is this what we saw
To my
earlier?
to my
Is that
knowledge,
correct?
it's the same as what was presented back in February.
Okay. Okay. All right, Doug Wood.
So, yeah, in regard to that, I guess that's why I'm disappointed that the Public Safety Committee, after we voted this down in February of this year, 6 months ago, decided to send it right back the exact same ordinance without making any changes to it at all. So that's one that's disappointing. The other thing I think we need to acknowledge that at least some of the public support for these restrictions and some of the public concern is based on an animus against poor people or against these panhandlers. We've had one emailer, who I won't name, referred to them as bums. There's been criticism of these folks for having their kids out there, and then there's criticism of them for having an umbrella when it's sunny to protect their kids. With regard to what's proposed, I think it's overly broad because it applies to the entire right-of-way of 14 different streets. I think it also may create a risk of unintended consequences of causing these people to go to other locations such as public parks or private property. I would support a restriction that, for sure, that says you can't stop in the median. Like if you're going to go to the median, that is for the purpose of getting to the other side. And if you, as it's defined in this proposal, I can't remember the exact, but if you stay there more than one cycle of the lights, you're not, you're presumed to not be using it to cross the street. That makes sense to me because it is a public safety hazard, both to them and to drivers, to have people standing in the median for some purpose other than going across. I would also likely support something that was focused on a few really busy intersections, in particular Monona Drive and Broadway and Stoughton Road, and maybe there's others, but those are the two where there's a lot going on. Like at Monona Drive, I think there's there's 6 lanes maybe on each leg or 5 approaching it. It's very high traffic volumes, so it makes sense there. I would even expand it to say to some area more than just the intersection and say, you can't be in here for the purpose of, in approaching vehicles, because it's really does create a public safety hazard if you have people coming off the belt line and somebody is stopped because they want to interact with the panhandler. That's, to me, creates a real safety risk. So I would support something, more targeted in that regard, but this, it's the same thing we rejected 6 months ago. I think at that time we had talked about possibly having some less broad ordinance. So I guess I would like to see some changes to it, and I would be willing to put together some language on that for the next time.
Anyone else? Alder DePula.
So I guess, so if it's protected by the First Amendment, then we can regulate the time and place of that First Amendment activity? Yes? Question for the city attorney?
Correct, yes.
But if they leave those areas and then people start complaining that people are panhandling in Winnequa Park, what do we do about that as a council? Do we then have another meeting and we discuss how to remove them from the park because it's causing problems? So I guess where do they go after this is my question. And the other thing is fundamentally, while I understand and recognize the safety concern, and I will support something regarding this safety concern, I feel that fundamentally there is obviously a bias against those less fortunate than us in Monona sometimes, and I feel that there's a desire to not see poverty in Monona sometimes, and sometimes I think it's good that we see that it exists and reminds us that these are issues that need to be addressed. So, and again, where are they going to go is my question, and how are we going to deal with it when they go somewhere else? Or are we going to figure out a way to regulate that area too?
Anyone else?
Yeah, can I say more, I think?
Alder Bernstein.
Yeah, in committee, I echoed, I think, what Doug was saying, something more limited in terms of where we're really seeing the problem. And I think Doug put his finger on it with a couple of the more high-trafficked intersections. I did vote against this in committee, but I do want to give the police chief some authority in areas that are obviously very troubling when people are prone on the median. But I don't know if this is the right tool to do that.
Anyone else? Alder Moore.
Yeah, I am seeing in to Doug's second point. First of all, let me say, while I haven't been here as much as I would like this summer, I did make a point of driving around to the areas that the chief was concerned about the last time that we saw this, and spent time, particularly when we were having the heat waves early on in the summer. And I'm more appreciative, and I also had discussions with one of the officers about the problem as well. So I'm more prepared now to support something as well than I was last time. And I let the chief know that. But I'm just reading here, and it does say in the right of way that unless that person is in the process of crossing the highway in safety or crosswalks, and that if a person stays in the median through 2 consecutive opportunities to cross the highway in a legal manner. So that piece of it at least is addressed here. That it's not like, right? Because you were saying.
Yep.
But I would agree. I mean, frankly, I wish there were other alternatives, right? I mean, I wish there were the shelter situation in Dane County and Madison area was better than it is, because I think it sucks, frankly. Excuse my language. And I know that the police department has worked to refer people to social services and other things that could be of greater support to them, which I'm very appreciative of as well. But I guess I would ask, since there are 14 streets listed and it does seem fairly broad, where did those 14 come from? I mean, are those all the places where we have seen people in the past, so we decided to list them all, or are they places we think they're going to go, or?
I can speak to some of that.
Yeah.
So this list was not only by the police department, but also by, I believe, Public Works, and others have identified these streets. A couple of things to note. One has to do with occupying a pedestrian sidewalk does not count, so that is in the right of way. So if you take, for example, Broadway, which has a significant sidewalk, or if you take Monona Drive, that has a sidewalk up and down, that is not included. This is talking about right-of-way space that isn't intended for pedestrian use.
Right. So in the middle of the street, what you're saying?
Or a
Or
place
on the
where
side
there
of
is
the
not
street.
pedestrian. Yeah. So, for example, to Alderwood's point, if you're coming off the on Monona Drive off the belt line in front of, for example,
Red
Starbucks or Red Robin, there is no sidewalk.
Right, it's just grass.
So that would be a prohibited space. So this list was looked at for main thoroughfares where stopping on the side of the road is actually already the concern. Like there isn't stopping already on the side of the road for these roads. I would say the one change was Bridge Road originally had all the way up through, I can't remember where it was, but the amendment was to have it end at River Place. And there again, you have sidewalks on both sides of the street. So you're really looking at the median in that stretch of property as well. So the two pieces that kind of highlight, one, why the streets. These were the major thoroughfares that are not areas that have parking and pedestrian kind of thoroughfare on the side. And if they do, it's already protected, for example, on Broadway. And then second was really looking at the, not just saying this intersection, because part of it, to be honest, was really pointing out the safety concern is up and down in a non-pedestrian space, not about restricting the ability to panhandle or do other activity, because that's not the intention of, I believe, the Public Safety Committee in wanting to address this concern. I think that is the perception of some individuals that is looking at this ordinance is to try to address panhandling as an issue. And I agree, where does it go from here? Like, I don't know, but I think these are not the safe locations. Someone could easily stand on the sidewalk at many of these same locations. So Broadway and Monona Drive, there is a sidewalk on the right of way there. There would be nothing in this that would prevent someone from standing on that sidewalk and doing what they're doing today.
Alder Bueller.
So in some of these areas, and I guess this is a question for the city attorney and whoever else, in some of these areas, if a group of 4 people were standing there protesting with protest signs, a subject that was controversial, what would we do to them?
Same thing.
Same thing?
Yeah.
Meaning we would move them out.
Meaning the police would arrive, they'd be ordered to leave. If they failed to do so, they would be cited for violating this ordinance. And no matter what activity they're doing, this is effectively a loitering ordinance. Your presence in this area is what is illegal, not what you're doing. So whether they're panhandling, reading a book, or doing whatever, the result would be the same.
Alder Wood.
I thought there was a requirement that they approach the vehicle, so they wouldn't.
Yeah, you're looking at E, which is, that is driver's.
No, C, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, approach a vehicle in operation. That's true. That would be conduct in addition to the D, the presence.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess to that point, if you were in the standing on the curb, as long as you didn't approach a vehicle, you're not in the median. You could presumably do that, and that would not contravene this ordinance.
So you could ask for donations as long as you're not in a median.
Correct.
As long as you're not approaching the vehicle.
Right.
You're not approaching a vehicle.
So why is it that a fireman with a boot can walk up to a car?
Well, they
and someone-
couldn't.
They wouldn't be able to.
This would shut that down.
Yeah.
The chief is aware of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that came up last time.
Yeah.
Well, again, I'll volunteer to draft something, and the body can do with it what they want. Sort of using this as a starting point, and maybe trying to hone it down some.
And if anyone has any suggestions for you, can they send them to you?
Sure.
Is that okay?
I have a
Alder
question
Moore?
for the chief. Chief, when this says that this is consistent with other municipalities, or similar to what other municipalities have done, do you by any chance have a copy of what other, whether it's Madison or other municipalities in this area that might have done this? I would just like to. Or
Yep.
if I just want to go on the Madison Police Department, police ordinances, could I find a similar ordinance to this?
There is. Madison, panhandling ordinance.
Yeah, we actually use a lot of language from Madison's ordinance in this proposed draft, but I'll send it to you, but you can also, as I recommended to the committee, Google just 3 words, Madison Median Ordinance, and that's likely the first thing that'll come up.
Madison Median Ordinance, okay, thank you.
Wauwatosa, I know it's not an area, they have one as well. And it's primarily, I think, Wauwatosa matched Milwaukee's ordinance because they were seeing similar impacts I think we're experiencing, where the bigger city passed an ordinance and then the smaller community was starting to see sort of an increase in unsafe activity. And we're in the same boat. For example, Sun Prairie, they don't have nearly the quantity. Verona, they don't have nearly the number of calls, safety concerns. Fitchburg, they don't have nearly enough. We're just in that unique geographic spot where we're impacted by that.
Anyone else? Okay. Then we will, Alder Wood, did you have anything additional to add?
No, I do not.
Okay. All right. All right, then we will move on to item H, reports of committees, commissions, boards, et cetera. First of all, does anyone have any updates on diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts? I know the city administrator had something, if you want to go ahead now.
Yeah, just a couple of items. Came across a training entitled Building Business Relationships and Engagement with Wisconsin Tribal Citizens and Nations. It is through UW Stevens Point. It has several instructors. It's over 4 Fridays from the Oneida Nation, the Cheyenne and Arapaho tribe, the Kiowa tribe, and then I think there's one other one. 4 different very, very well qualified speakers, several involved with UW Law School, to kind of define and identify business practices and the best way to reach out and actually to conduct business with those citizens and nations. It was a $250 registration. I thought that was pretty much a bargain for the kind of quality of the. So if anyone's interested in that, we'll happily send that along. It's from Friday, September 15th through October 20th. There's 4 sessions, ranging about 3 to 4 hours each, and some of the information there.
It's on Zoom, right?
It is. You can go to Stevens Point if you want to.
Could do that.
But it is, to be clear, it is definitely available on Zoom. Just a couple of other items. Finance Director Mark Hardekar and myself had a quick call with the Nehemiah team, circling back on some implementation steps. Hopefully be looking at some additional things here. We were thinking maybe another 3 meetings. They were saying maybe another 4 to 5 meetings, potentially to come up with some identified implementation steps. But it was at least a good quick introduction for myself to the representatives from their organization. So it was a good quick call, but it was a good one. Reached out to Michael Johnson at the Boys and Girls Club of Dane County to see if we can get a tour set for the McKenzie Workforce Regional Center. We get that date set. If folks haven't seen that, it's a pretty impressive facility. Incredible fundraising job and just really an amazing facility all the way around. So it was to see if we could try to figure out a good time when we can maybe get a tour of that facility. If folks were in City Hall, we were very excited to put out from WIBIC. Folks are familiar with them. The Wisconsin Women's Business Innovation Corporation, I believe, is the acronym. They have a catalog of small business assistance guides that they make for businesses. They provided us copies in Spanish and in English. So we have put those out outright in City Hall and have those out. So we're excited to take advantage of their investment, and they're good enough to share those with us. So we're excited to have those out. Just today, we're going to be hosting the Dane County CBG Home Review Committee, evaluating their request for 2024 funding here in the committee room in City Hall. We figured maybe that wouldn't be a bad idea, since we maybe want to apply for some funds at some point. Maybe it'll show them a little hospitality to their review committee. So they'll be here, I think, 3 days. It's actually right after our interviews for the design team, I believe. So yep, that week. And just one note, we did review proposals for the civic facility design this week. We did have a firm that was led by 2 female principals that scored fairly well. I think the mayor and I think scored them pretty well. They did not make the final cut for the full committee, but we will. But I think we're probably going to reach out to them just to kind of learn a little bit more about their firm and just kind of do some outreach to certainly encourage them to continue to apply for future efforts. And if there's anything.
I think they have done something else for us in the past, I think.
So, again, it was a very, certainly thought, again, scored in our top 3, I think, Mayor, for you and I. I think at least a couple other members had them ranked fairly high as well, but just they were kind of the ones just missing the cut. So we'd kind of like to do some outreach with them and see if there's a way we can get them to maybe score a little bit better, possibly in the future, if they're interested in the conversation. So that'd be my report.
Anybody else have anything? Rick?
Well, as I understand it, you're down to 4 finalists?
We're going to talk about that later. Right now, we're talking about DEI.
I thought he was just giving us a...
Well, he was just talking about the DEI aspect of that, but...
Good.
Anybody have anything else about DEI updates?
Mayor, I have something.
Teresa?
Periodically, I've been giving updates to this body just at a very high level about the DEIB implementation team. And just to reiterate, we're kind of now in the process of breaking down into 3. We've broken down into 3 work groups. One is housing and transportation, another is communication, and a third is sort of community capacity building. And each work group is tasked with sort of prioritizing top 3 actions and really trying to figure out how a particular initiative would become a reality in Monona, and digging into just the nuts and bolts of how something would get done. One initiative that I can share with you that is just simple but really exciting is on the communications work group. It's very possible that WVMO will soon have its very own Spanish radio music and culture hour once a week, hosted by someone in Monona here who grew up in Mexico City, and I'm really looking forward to hearing some cumbia music and hearing about Dia de los Muertos and all sorts of interesting Mexican culture. Yeah.
They're already promoting that.
They're already, yeah.
At least
Wonderful.
Shalene's promoting it. I'm not sure if the station is, but. Anyone else? Anyone have any updates on sustainability?
I'll add something for sustainability.
Okay.
Just something small, but I think sometimes small things can be powerful, and I'm a big fan of community engagement and participatory democracy, so to speak. We have an interesting little success story here in Monona. I don't know if many people are aware of it, but if you drive past the hill alongside the library on Nichols Road, you may have recently noticed a small little circular area with some colored flags stuck in the ground. And keep your eye on that little plot of land. It will soon be the home of a new pollinator garden. So long story short, the Sustainability Committee has a formal work group focusing on increasing pollinator habitat as a way of just sort of moving beyond No Mow May, right? No Mow May is a great attention getter. It gets people talking and thinking, but it's really not the end of the conversation. It just opens the conversation. A citizen approached me with an idea that he would like to, really start to increase more pollinator gardens in Monona. Fast forward a couple months, we have a group of about 30 people. We tour community gardens, people's homes, master gardeners in Monona, who have already implemented some really interesting strategies. We've reached out to Ryan here at the Director Claringbowl here at the library, applied for a grant from Dane County, a Dane County program. We were awarded over 100 native plants. They will be arriving yesterday. Looked at my calendar, and they'll be going in the ground next weekend. So it's just sort of one of those things where, it's not, the construction of a massive building that will sit in our presence for, 50, 60, 70 years, but it's just a nice little way. I really appreciate citizens getting involved and really becoming active in their community. So.
Anyone else have anything about sustainability? No. Okay, then we will move on to committee reports. Alder Bernstein.
You've heard about public safety. Transit will be meeting soon.
Wednesday.
And the library will be meeting soon, and nothing much to report there.
Okay. Teresa?
Quickly jotting down my committee assignments here. So next week, many are meeting. So we've got the DEI implementation group is meeting tomorrow night. Landmarks on Wednesday, community media on Thursday, and sustainability both on Thursday. The Monona Go app is a fantastic way to keep abreast of everything that's going on in committee, and minutes are also posted on the website. I think I've hit a couple of highlights here, so I'll just move on to our next alder.
Alder Wood.
License review meets tomorrow. The Avid Hotel has requested a full liquor license, so that'll be interesting to hear how they're going to utilize it. CDA meets tomorrow night, and Wednesday Parks Board meets. I did want to report, probably could have done this under sustainability, but MPO met last week and approved additions of $17 million of projects under this Surface Transportation Block Grant Urban Program. For the first time, over 50% of the funds being spent are for pathway projects. This is probably not going to repeat very often, but out of the 17 million, there's about 9 that are for path projects. The big chunk of that is to build the glacial drumlin, a section of the glacial drumlin path to get it under I-3990 to County Highway AB Buckeye Road. That's really, it's $11 million total project. Really expensive in part because you have to, there'll be 4,200 feet of boardwalk going through wetlands. So it does go through wetlands, it goes under the interstate. It wouldn't happen without the federal funding. So that's pretty exciting, and there will then be further extensions. There's another phase planned to take it the rest of the way to Cottage Grove, and it'll connect to the Cap City segments on the other end. So it's a pretty exciting project.
Cool. I'll have to tell my neighbors, 2 of them are about half done with the
Oh yeah.
whole Ice Age trail.
Yeah, I see their pictures.
Alder Moore.
Is Alder Bernstein reported the Transit Commission is meeting, and it's actually Wednesday evening at 6 p.m.
Everything. Alder Holmquist.
CDA tomorrow and ZBA later this month. Those are the 2 main ones. Other than that, no report.
Alder DePua.
So the mayor and I serve on the Dane County Housing Advisory Committee, and our last meeting is coming up. So the strategy will kind of be all put together, and then we're going to form an implementation committee at the county level to try and implement some of the best practices that we've learned about and things that we've discussed and priorities that we've kind of come to mutual decision upon based on all the communities in Dane County. Parks, we have a meeting this week, and Public Works makeup meeting is on Wednesday because we did not have quorum last week.
All right. Chief McMullen, do you have anything?
No, ma'am. Nothing other than to say thank you to both you and the council for the bathroom renovations moving forward. I appreciate it.
Okay. Chief Cheney?
In the meantime, the fire department is more than welcome to continue to use our showers. Cops are a little grumpy that they have to lock their weaponry up since we've had to open up our doors, but that's quite all right. So I'm in Green Bay for a conference, very productive day today talking about resiliency, which is very important in our profession. Tomorrow, a lot of legal updates, including from Attorney General Call. FBI is coming in to talk about sort of mass casualty incidents, sort of a grim week of topic discussions because Highland Park is coming in after that to talk about their event and do a true breakdown of that. But as you know, I talk about this a lot. It's what's important for all of us is to make sure that your public safety team is all up to speed and does the best they can to prepare and plan for these for all of our events here in Monona. So that's what I'm doing up here this week. And then lastly, just a reminder, National Night Out tomorrow. So I'll be driving back down to wonderful Monona tomorrow and driving right back up afterwards to attend my last day of conference. But 5:30 p.m. Winnequa Park tomorrow goes to 7:30. I just looked at the weather forecast. Looks like it's going to be beautiful. So I hope to see all of you there. That's it.
That's great.
I'd like to ask the chief why none of the alders, at least that I know of, maybe I escaped, maybe I was gone, but I know I've been asked to be in the dunk tank before, and I'm just wondering why we were omitted this year.
It's a new guy, right?
Well, at first it was me, and I don't give too many orders. I mean, I give strong suggestions in my job, which are pretty much like orders. But I gave a strong order it was not going to be me, and so they promptly found somebody else. And I don't think they asked around. But I'll pass it on to Officer Flora that you're raising your hand for future years.
Sure.
I'll raise like $150 if you want to do it. Or something. Charity of your choice.
That's that, right?
Okay. City Attorney Cole?
I'm just finalizing now a litigation report for you all that I hopefully will get to you in the next week or two. Due to the subject matter, it's a confidential memo, but if you all have any questions concerning it, feel free to give me a call, and I do my best to answer them. That's all.
City Clerk? City Administrator?
No other report, Mayor.
Okay, I just had a couple of things. Number one, newsletter articles are due on Friday, so please remember to turn those into Anita or to Will. In addition to the National Night Out, it's also the Senior Center's last concert tomorrow, beginning at 6:30. Leslie Goff, who is a Monona Grove grad, member of a longtime Monona family, and there will be food trucks and drinks and all kinds of other things as well. I guess my other main thing to talk about was a public safety building update. The committee met last week. We got 10 responses to our RFP. The committee met and reviewed them and chose 4 to bring in for interviews. Bray, FGMA, Wenzel, and Wold are the names of the 4 companies. And those interviews have been set up for August 21st and 22nd. There'll be 2 each day, each about an hour and a half set aside for each. I think an hour for the interview part and then a half-hour closed session for the committee to discuss. In between them, they will be between 11 and 2, and we'll be providing Zoom if anybody would like to watch them. They'll also be filmed if you'd like to watch them later. They're each... The city administrator has put together a list of questions that I've reviewed and made a few changes to, and we sent it to the committee to see if they have any, additional questions or tweaks they'd like to give to them. And each of the businesses, the design firms have been, I think they've been sent those questions already, and they will be, yes. So that they're prepared. And then there will most likely be some individual questions just addressed to particular firms.
Based on their specific proposal, there will be a couple of questions directed towards that specific firm, just to clarify some of the information that they presented.
Yeah.
And these will be essentially closed session interviews. So there will be
Well, the interviews will be public, but the discussion will be closed session, right?
I was going to say, I have to check with Bill.
I don't know.
Well, you can do that. If you do the interviews in open session, though, then the other candidates are free to sit and observe,
Exactly.
and it disadvantages.
Absolutely, yeah. So I would feel more comfortable.
Okay, I guess they're closed session interviews then.
Yeah. So, but certainly, obviously, if alders would like to sit in,
Let us know.
Just let us know. We can make that arrangement.
Yeah.
So. Because that'll be, rather than have to force to do it, we'd rather do it if you were interested, certainly have you sit in if you can during that process, rather than have to, if you don't want to bring them back in for another interview.
Right.
You don't have to. So if you can join us, that'd be a great opportunity.
If you'd like to listen,
appreciate it.
yeah. The committee will be asking the questions.
Absolutely.
So, and if you want the proposals, are they all online at the, they're on the website, right?
I'll make sure that they're on the OneDrive. Brad has.
Okay.
I'll make sure that
Yeah.
there's access to those.
Before that we
Absolutely.
receive.
What are the dates again?
21st and 22nd,
Yeah,
I believe.
it's the day of our next council meeting, and then the day following, Monday and Tuesday, 2 weeks from now.
Those are the dates. And Neil, do you happen to remember the time of day?
Yep. They're both basically we'll be from 11 to 2
Okay.
both days.
Yeah, each one will be
2
about an hour and a
interviews
half
each, yeah.
allotted, yeah,
Okay.
for each, so,
But I will send out a reminder as well. Thank you.
okay. And I guess the only other thing is, please remind your committee members, if they cannot make a meeting, to please let staff know. We've had some quorum issues lately, and it's good to know about those in advance rather than having people come to the meeting and then have not enough people to actually conduct the meeting, so.
And very selfishly, Mayor, I would add, it does this certainly being budget time, having everybody be able to have these meetings is a little bit more, maybe a little bit more important than usual.
Right.
So, and just let us know if there's accommodations we can do to help on anything, or
Yeah.
to make that more feasible. We'd be happy to help, so.
Yeah, the capital budget requests are due within the next week or so, and because we'll start meeting with staff to discuss them after that. So in fact, I think they were due first week of August. So anyway, we have 2 appointments tonight. Laura Cushman to the library board, effective immediately through June 30th, 2026. She's the school district representative. I know that last time you approved, totally spacing on her name, the principal at Lenuka School, but Laura Cushman is their library director, and once she offered to do it, the principal decided to step stepped down. Angie Fassel, yeah. So Lorimer is going to be, Danielson has appointed her to that role now instead. And then Jeremy Watkins to the Facilities Committee, and his application was in your packet, and that's effective immediately. So is there a motion to approve the appointments?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Have a good night.